So yeah, it's not your mother's job to, you know, to teach you about any of those things anyway. Like it's, you know, especially not. But of course, like growing up, it's important. A mother can teach their mother and you know their especially, you know, a mother and a father should teach both, especially if they've got a son and a daughter like I've got. You're teaching them both as they get older about, especially as they get older about, you know, their sexual health and these different kind of things. You don't have to be graphic and go into too much detail, but also it's about giving them education to the point where you know that they're being safe, that if they do go out in the world and they do end up doing something that is beyond your control, even though you've educated them in a certain way, that you know they might have still been educated to the point that they might have done it safely.
You just want your children to be wise.
So it's one of those fine lines. It's being you want to be real with your children as they get older, and once they get, especially once they get to like 15, 16, and they start getting older into those, you know, older teenage years, and those like hormones and everything start kicking in. I think it's just about education, just educating them, and just obviously you want them to do things the right way, but obviously things happen, as we all know. So it's just ensuring that hopefully that the education that you've poured into them, that they will follow that. If they do go ahead, if you know, if they don't follow your advice and they do end up having, you know, intercourse at a young age and these different things, you know, and that hopefully they'll use a condom, they'll use protection, they'll, you know, do things in a safe way.
You just want to be confident that your children got enough wisdom that they can choose to do the right things themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like even my son, like growing up, like when he gets to a certain age, the same thing with my daughter, but obviously more so for my son, I think. I'll be telling, you know, if he ever asks me about porn and these different things, I'll be honest and real with him, you know? Like the kind of conversation that we're having here tonight, this kind of conversation of you know, everything has its pros and its cons, but I wouldn't really advise you to, you know, if you want to have a normal sexual relationship, you know, relationships with different women that you encounter and stuff without any outside interference, if you see what I mean, no fantasy or anything, so you can completely focus on that one woman, you know, then I think to me that's a great thing, if you see what I mean, because sometimes people are relationships and they have these fantasies and they end up straying away from their relationships because of these fantasies, if you see what I mean, the fantasies in which they might be.
I think every circumstance is a little bit different, you know, like I mean, going back to my wife who I was with 13 years, we did have a good time first of all, but then at the end of the day she, you know, I mean, I set my heart completely, I gave up everything. I didn't look at anyone, you know, or any other women, but then she just lost interest in me.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I wasn't doing the right thing because I was working too much or something, or I don't know, do you know what I mean? She just lost interest in me. It does get boring, doesn't it? Sort of having sex week after week, year after year.
Same person.
With the same person, and you're sleeping with the same person, arguing with the same person now and again, talking to the same person, and getting older with the same person, you know, and so on. Learning about each other as you're going by.
That's why the whole sexual education is so important, even for older people, people that are in their, you know, 30s, 40s, even as well.
You don't learn about marriage, do you, until you go through it?
That's what it is, exactly. Yeah. And sex is obviously a marriage. Your whole marriage is not about sex. Obviously, that is a part of that. That's a very important part of it, of course. You know, as human beings, you know.
I think it's one of the most important parts about it, though. So if you don't enjoy your sex, it's not, you're not enjoying together, are you?
Yeah, yeah.
If you see what I mean, you're just not. Like I say, it's important that you meet a woman that you get on with. That you haven't got any sex problems with her or anything, you know. Like I mean, when I was with my first girlfriend who I had a baby with, as time went by, or a year went by, I started having sexual problems with her, and then because I didn't realise really that she was abused that much, it was affecting me.
Yeah.
You know, it will do.
Yeah.
I just feel like you can't really have a good sex life with somebody that's been abused.
It's very hard because that person has been through so much trauma.
They're just messed up for good.
Imagine, especially as a man, when you find out these things and it kind of, obviously it's not intentional, you don't want to intentionally be like that, you know, but it's one of those things that, like, I think it's that self-conscious thing of that you worry because obviously if this person has been abused and traumatized, and even though they might be an adult now and they want, they want to have a normal sexual relationship with their partner, like it's hard for you, especially if you know these things. It's like you might be worried that you might do something the wrong way or touch her the wrong way or do something that might remind her of something that might from her past, and no one wants to do that. No one wants to be in that. Anyone that's compassionate and loving, and empathetic towards other people, that's the last. You don't want to remind, you don't want to be the person that reminds someone of something awful that's happened to them, if you see what I mean, because of some trauma that they've experienced that you were unaware of,
Well, I think every child gets abused, right, but maybe not in sexual. I mean, I was abused because I was locked up in the cupboard. Like I said last episode, I was locked up in the cupboard a lot by the teacher, but she didn't physically abuse me. And some children get physically abused. Some children might get verbal abuse. Some people, some children get sexual abuse. Some get sexual abuse more than others, or it might go a bit deeper. Or, it's just all lots of different cases out there. With different, lots, I reckon every child, almost every child has been abused in one way or another as they've been brought up in this world. I mean, luckily I wasn't sexually abused anyway, personally, but I know my ex-wife was a little bit, and so was the girl before, do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of women out there and men that have been abused. Simple. And I think it's just a
sad reality of life.
I think it's kind of like, it's not nature at all, but it's the nature of human beings in a funny way. We've been drinking for centuries now, and our ancestors were kind of messed up. They weren't looking after us properly, or I mean, even there was a division every century that's gone by: rich and poor, royalty and paupers. Peasants, that's what I'm trying to think is. Peasants are people that don't own a home or land. So there's plenty of peasants all around the world, and peasants, they've had difficulty, or they've had their rights violated by the upper class and all this and kinds of things. And I mean, even prison, what does that do? So let's say someone does something wrong, or they might not do something wrong. They get sent to prison, but they've got a family. Their wife loves them, their children, but they've got to go to prison for 5 years, say, because they've done something and done a robbery. So the whole family here has got no dad anymore. the children have got no dad. So the children are getting punished too. You see what I'm saying? I've seen it happen, I've seen these YouTubes where a man has been taken away from their 8-year-old son, and he's screaming
and that's traumatic for that child too. That child will always remember that too. That's emotional trauma. I remember you showing me that video, and that's the first thing I thought. The first thing that I was thinking is obviously when those police approached him and he was in the house with all his children, I think there was 3 children in total. It looks like there were 3 children in total within the small apartment complex, wherever it was. One of the first thoughts that went through my head when you showed me that video, mate, was, these children are now subjected to this experience of what this man is going to have, what this man is experiencing with these police. These children are present, and they're having to experience it in the moment with him too, if you see what I mean. And for the rest of their lives, that they're going to remember that. It's going to be a traumatic experience that they witnessed and had to endure. Even though obviously he was the one that was tased and he was the one that was treated that way, they still had to watch that, and they still heard everything, and the screaming and the shouting and the abuse and profanity, and etc. So it's the children that like you said that suffer. And I remember being young too, and being in that kind of circumstance to myself, where nothing to do with police, but I remember sometimes my mum, was physically abused by my stepfather, and a few times when I was young, and like when you're there and you're present and you're young and there's nothing that you can do about it and you don't really understand what's going on, and you know what's going on but you can't really understand it fully, you can't really comprehend it because you're so young, but you can hear everything and you're present in
Things not right.
in the moment.
The atmosphere is not right.
You can feel the tension in the room, you can feel, you know, the shouting, the screaming, you know.
I bet it's drinking as well, wasn't it?
It was drinking, yeah, predominantly when he was, you know.
So my dad, he drank a lot too, do you know what I mean? And it's just not good. It's not good. You know, it's okay going to the pub if you've got no children or anything, you know, no responsibilities. But I think it should be a little bit wrong, I must admit, like, there's nothing wrong with going there once a week maybe, but when you're doing it every day, do you know what I mean, and completely forgetting about your children, going to work all the time as well, that's another thing, you know, you forget, you're not with your children when you're working, are you? Unless you're working with your children, you know.
Well, a lot of time the reality is that a lot of people are working to provide for their children.
Yeah,
you
but
see what I mean? So it's,
at the end of the day, in this reality what we're living today, most people have got jobs.
Yeah.
They work Monday to Friday, every week after week.
Yeah.
And their children are at school. They don't see each other.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, they have to save up maybe for a little holiday once a year.
Yeah.
And all that. That's what we're living in, right? And really, in reality, even when I look at my childhood, I can't really remember my parents at all being in it. Any little memories, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, of Christmas maybe and whatever. Very little memories, you know. And it's kind of like, hang on, this is not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'd much rather I had a better childhood if I just don't sit home with my family.
Yeah.
If you see what I'm saying. But what went wrong with war?
Yeah.
That's what went wrong. A big world war, you know, and we had to go to school and be separate, or whatever, to go to war. We had to go into jobs to go to war, you know, build weapons and God knows what, you know, go into, you know, leave our kids behind, separate from our kids, you know, and what's happened after the war, we're still doing it, you know, we're still separating ourselves from, like I say, I mean, like, in this day and age, you go to school, and by the time, not in all cases, but by the time your children are 16 or 18, they're quite used to not even being with their parents anymore. You know, and they're being quite rude with their parents now because, you know, their teachers or whatever have been their parents for the last 10 years.
X amount of years,
if you see what I mean, telling them what to do or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You see what I mean? You know, and it's, I don't
because they've
think
been taking the advice from the teachers.
I think it's saddening. I think it's saddening for all of us. You know,
it creates a disconnect, doesn't it?
I tell you, my mum told me not long ago that even when she was working hard, all right, at a BAT factory, whatever, she felt guilty because she knew that I was young. And she just felt like she should give up her job and stay at home with her mum, you know, with her children. Like, and I bet you a lot of mothers have felt like that over time. You know, that this is, you know, they've been deprived of their rights. We all have.
Yeah.
In this, you know, we can feel it. That's why I feel like we're all not happy or we're not angry or confused. You know, we've been told to do something. All of us. You know, we've been ordered.
Yeah.
We're all owned, basically, and it's kind of like if it's like a shutdown. They say shut down, boom, shut down. And we all got to put up with it. What's going on there? You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are suffering in many different ways because of it, mentally or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they don't care about people's mental problems or what it's going to do to someone. They just do it. And I just think it's a little bit crazy. Even they control, because we're talking about sex, I mean, so they even control sex, you know, like bringing AIDS in,
all these
the
things.
condoms and the pill. Is the pill good for you? Does it do you any harm?
Well, they say a lot of women experience a lot of problems with the pill and the coil. Some of them used to have the coil and stuff like this too.
Yeah.
And they used to, a lot of women have experienced, you know, a lot of problems with a lot of these things, you know, cause them to have hormone imbalances and all sorts of problems, you know. Yeah. It's the trouble. There's always side effects for these kind of pharmaceutical kind of like, you know, all these pharmaceutical kind of drugs and like prescription pills and stuff like this. There's always like some kind of like, you know, negative kind of like side effect or like, you know.
I think they invented condoms in about 1965. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Then the rubber gloves come out in 1975. You know, look at them, they're all over the place now, you know. They sell them like hot cakes. Yeah.
I was gonna say whoever did the first person that ever patented a condom was was a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire, possibly a billionaire, you know.
I wish it was me.
Yeah.
I invented the condom.
That person fully understood.
Imagine that.
That person fully understood the, you know, that, you know.
Can you imagine that though? Like you say, what do you do for a living? I say, I invented the condom. That's something to be proud of, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, you know, it's prevented actually a lot of children being born.
Yeah,
killed millions of people.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. When you really think about it, yeah. When you really think about it, yeah.
You know, like, can you imagine being a sperm and sort of coming out excited, thinking you're going to reach the egg and there's a bit of plastic there or rubber?
Yeah.
I can't get out.
Stuck.
I'm stuck. Oh no, we're going to die all of us.
But at the same time, too, it's also protected a lot of people from contracting diseases.
Yeah.
You know? STIs and AIDS and all these various different things that exist within our world today. Condoms have prevented a lot of people from contracting diseases in instances where they might not have known.
The humans are the only... Because I look at animals,
Yeah.
And I don't think they get cancers or any diseases, that's the thing. I just find that humans, they get lots of diseases, but animals don't.
Animals do get cancers and shit.
Oh,
animals do get cancers and shit.
I don't really. I know that they go to the vet sometimes.
Even one of my mum's cats had cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realise, you know, I just think like humans, they've got so many different diseases, I'm true, you know, and I just sort of like, I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
a lot of shit, as we already know, is man-made. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of man-made diseases too. You know.
But just imagine if they didn't invent the condom, right? There'd be a lot of people in the world today.
Oh yeah, for sure, mate. Imagine how many people. Imagine how many people would be in the world today if they hadn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the pill, like everything you just said before, the pill, the coil, the condom, all these things. Imagine how many people, like you said, would have been born if these things weren't invented.
What do you think kills more people each year?
What do you mean?
Out of everything.
What kills?
Like drugs? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it war?
I would say it's.
Let me tell you, I know what it is.
What is it?
Car accidents.
Car accidents. Yeah, it's funny that you said that because that was the first thing I thought. But then the second thing the second thing that I thought was people getting shot and killed.
No, more people get killed by far by road accidents. But anyway, we're not talking about road accidents. We're talking about sex.
Yeah.
My favourite subject.
Yeah.
What used to be in the olden days.
Yeah.
So I mean, now I just like look at my sexual experiences, whatever they are, as a memory.
Yeah, that's what it is, a memory.
And that's all they become after them. Like a dream in a funny way.
Yeah.
And you sometimes can fantasize, you know, sort of lay in bed and dream about sex.
Yeah, recall.
Well, not necessarily recall, you can make up new sex things if you're clever, if you sort of mean. That's what I'm saying, fantasize, good, fantasizing is good. And that's, it's good to be romantic, isn't it? I mean, it's always nice when a relationship is brand new, isn't it? Like the first year or so. It's quite beautiful. Or it can be. Not necessarily, you know. Like I say, it's all to do with meeting the right person, isn't it? Somebody that's educated, well brought up, I mean, I wish that I met somebody. I mean, my ex, sadly, like I told you, she got abused heavily, and unfortunately, she didn't have good parents to bring her up. Her mum and dad got divorced, and then her mum met this horrible guy that happened to abuse all the children, all four of them. And she had one sister and two brothers, and all four of them got abused. You know, and that affected them all in different ways.
Of course, yeah.
The whole family. And I expect it does to this day, if you sort of mean. It doesn't go away, because it kind of ruins, I don't know, it just ruins your life in a funny way.
Yeah, can do for sure.
And some people have had a great life, they've been brought up beautifully, and they know who to choose for their partner because they've been brought up well, and they choose wisely, and the person that they choose wisely too, if you sort of mean. And that's how it should work, I think. But unfortunately in this world there's not a lot of wise people. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. I wasn't.
But
wise.
I think people are also.
I wasn't wise.
People are also guilty of repeated patterns, and what I mean by that is sometimes, right? People might experience certain things when they're young, and when they get older, they end up not intentionally but unintentionally finding someone, like basically attracting someone to the opposite of what they want. If that makes sense, they end up attracting, you know, someone who might be violent or abusive or whatever the case may be, because sometimes they're stuck in that pattern of, you know, sometimes like even for some women, say for example, might look for father figures if they never had a father figure in their life. As they get older, they might look for a man who is almost, they might look for someone who's like a father figure to them. If you see what I mean, because the father's never been present. If you see what I mean, they might have daddy issues, as they like to call it. If you see, you know what I mean, father issues, you know. And that does happen too. People get stuck in repeated cycles of behaviour where sometimes they unintentionally attract the things that they don't want. You can get what I'm saying, you know.
It took me a very long time to grow up. It did. Even today, I'm still learning. And it took me a long time to understand sex even, you know. And I mean, when I first started to have sex, you know, when I was about 16, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just like a wild rabbit with no brain. And slowly in time it's matured, you know, and I look back at sex just like I do games, computer games or whatever, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of fun. You don't have to do it to be happy in life, you know, and it's not really important, but, you know, it's fun. If you're right with the right woman in a relationship and you have great sex together, because sex is good for you.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's good. Your body feels good. Afterwards,
it's kind of
puts you in a high.
It's kind of a good exercise, and obviously it releases all the endorphins within the brain.
Yeah, if you have a good orgasm, it really.
It's like. What it is essentially is a dopamine release. Dopamine, that's what they call it. It's the dopamine release when you get, like you said, that high, that ecstasy. You know that, you know, and like you said also as well, like it can be like exercise too. It can be a good exercise. You know, like I say, people burn a lot of calories while they're having sex.
I've nearly had heart attacks.
Sometimes,
you know, I've nearly actually dropped on the job during. Halfway through it.
Almost keeled over.
Halfway through it, you know, it's like, I can't do it anymore, I've just nearly had a heart attack.
Yeah,
you sort of
I've got to
give up.
Got to pass out.
Sorry my love.
Yeah, can't go anymore.
I've got to put my pacer on.
That's it, I've put in a lot of work, you know, we've got to start again tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, and it's good exercise, it really is, and it's also, if you had a good sex with somebody, and you both enjoyed it, and you both had an orgasm, you both played it right, and you wake up next day and you feel great.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You feel like you've had Weetabix or something, you know, and just makes you feel more confident and more blessed, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And it creates a good chemistry between you and you and your partner. Like, creates a good chemistry. You know.
Yeah, and you both got a memory together as well of something that's happened a little bit, and it's something a bit personal between both of you. And I think that's what sort of grows love a little bit. That you've got these personal things that you've done together that only you two know, and it makes the bond grow stronger. It's what you call love, isn't it? And you kind of like as time goes on, you're seeing each other every day, recognising, remembering each other every day, and you become more familiar with each other. You know each other more in a kind of way, and you become one. And it's nice. It can be, you know, especially if you're with the right woman.
Yeah, it's true.
If you've both been educated and you've got common sense about you. You know your rights and your wrongs, and you're both trying your best, and both of you don't want any arguments in life. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, I met a woman who I married that I felt like I think she was spoiled as a little girl, big time, because of our hard of hearing. You see, and when I met her, you know, you don't know really. You get to know her,
of course.
and as time goes by, she's still spoiled getting what she wants from her parents and all that, and you know, you kind of stuck with this girl that's really spoiled.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I'm spoiled and that. Okay, I love that. And now I look back, I think I should have did it a bit different.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? But you can't. It's too late. You've done it. It's done. And you've done what you've done.
It's history now.
Whatever you've done, whatever sex you've had, it's done.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's 15 years ago when I split up with my wife. So it's a long time ago, and it's becoming a bit of a... I don't think about it so much.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just talking about it because we're talking about sex.
Of course, yeah. Anyway, mate, before we wrap it up and call it a night for this week's episode, all about
pornography.
That's it.
Or porn.
Porn, however you look at it.
Yeah. I love it, you know, but I mean, we could do another 6 parts, could we?
Yeah, you could do, yeah. It's one of those things you could talk about for a long time, you know.
Yeah. It's an interesting subject.
But I just encourage people, like, it's like anything else in life, right? If you're going to choose to indulge in watching porn or consuming any adult activity, you know, as long as you're an adult and you're consuming these things, and you can do it in a healthy way, and you understand what it really is, and you know, it's you know, whatever, you know, you're not addicted to it, but you know, you might watch occasionally or whatever the case may be, then fair enough, fine, you know. As long as you're able to have a healthy relationship with anything in life, it will always be okay. You see what I mean? It's like with anything. It's like with food, with alcohol, with, you know, anything. People can enjoy things in life, you know, occasionally, without being addicted to them and without abusing it, if you see what I mean. So if you're able to consume anything of that nature, of adult nature, and you're an adult and you can do it healthily, and you know exactly what it is, you know, you understand that it's a bit of a fantasy, and whatever the case may be, not all of it is completely, you know, what would happen in real life, and you know, some of it is just fantasy, you know, not all of it is just, you know, what would happen naturally between a man and a woman, then I think that's fine. But for the people out there that do have a problem with it and, you know, have an unhealthy relationship with it, then I advise you to kind of get some kind of help, or to try and help yourself, you know, to try and figure out a way in which you can kind of, you know, either eliminate it from your life or try to have a healthy relationship with it where you're not indulging in it so much to the point that it's becoming unhealthy for your life, if you see what I mean, you know, it's making you unproductive, and you're, you know, wasting a lot of your time indulging in, you know, just, you know. So yeah. Anything else, mate, you want to add?
Yeah, it's something I could talk about all day, really. But I think we call it a day, really.
Yeah, yeah. Might be a part two. Might be a part two coming sometime. In the near future. In the near future, yeah. Because it's one of these topics today that right now at the moment a lot of people are talking about, and it's
I think they have.
They're causing a bit of a stir right now in the last couple of years. But people are debating. Lots of psychologists and lots of people are debating.
Well, it's the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The internet is exploded everywhere, isn't it? And it's kind of like, I feel like it's becoming a bit like, it's just everyone's being spoiled by sex, and it's losing its meaning in a funny way.
Yeah.
If you're with me.
True. Yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode, of course. We'll be back again next week, of course, with a brand new episode, so please stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, as we always say, please like, comment and subscribe, because that helps the channel tremendously. Good night, God bless, one love.
Bang.